Proverbs 23. When thou sittest to eat with a ruler, consider diligently what is before thee, and put a knife to thy throat, if thou be a man given to appetite. Be not desirous of his dainties, for they are deceitful meat. Labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings, they fly away as an eagle toward heaven. Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee. The morsel which thou hast eaten shalt thou vomit up, and lose thy sweet words. Speak not in the ears of a fool, for he will despise the wisdom of thy words. Remove not the old landmark, and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. For their Redeemer is mighty, he shall plead their cause with thee. Apply thine heart unto instruction, and thine ears to the words of knowledge. Withhold not correction from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shalt deliver his soul from hell. My son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. Yea, my reins shall rejoice when thy lips speak right things. Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long. For surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Be not among wine-bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Hearken unto thy father that begat thee, and despise not thy mother when she is old. Buy the truth, and sell it not, also wisdom, and instruction, and understanding. The father of the righteous shall greatly rejoice, and he that begetteth a wise child shall have joy of him. Thy father and thy mother shall be glad, and she that bare thee shall rejoice. My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. For a whore is a deep ditch, and a strange woman is a narrow pit. She also lieth in wait as for a prey, and increaseth the transgressors among men. Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. Look not thou upon the wine when it is red, when it giveth his colour in the cup, when it moveth itself aright. At the last it biteth like a serpent, and stingeth like an adder. Thine eyes shall behold strange women, and thine heart shall utter perverse things. Yea, thou shalt be as he that lieth down in the midst of the sea, or as he that lieth upon the top of a mast. They have stricken me, shalt thou say, and I was not sick. They have beaten me, and I felt it not. When shall I awake? I will seek it yet again.
Amen. Good evening. It is Thursday, October 16th, 2016. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. I apologize for my absence Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Not that I should really owe a big explanation. Monday night had some internet issues, a combination of things, but had some internet issues which made the show not possible whatsoever. And then the last two nights, I have been working my butt off on a website. As you know, I've mentioned it before that I was starting a business selling the juice for electronic cigarettes. And I am now working on that site, getting that site built up not technically as I do this show, but I've been doing it for the last few days. I've been hard on it, a lot of custom coding and stuff like that. And if you wanted to see what was going on, what I'm up to, the link is down in the About tab. I don't have quite the domain I want yet, but it's you'll see a link for survivalsmokes.webedge.com, and you want to check it out. There's only 2 products up at the moment. I've been working on a bunch of back-end stuff that you won't see on the front end, the actual site, the site that you see, you won't see that until I get completed with it. So, but tonight after the show, I'll be adding more different flavors of juices and stuff like that. I've got the last 3 days, I've really gotten a lot done. Again, it was on a lot of it's on the back end that you don't see right now. Had to do a lot of custom CSS coding and all that good stuff. So now it's I've got to add a few more pages, and it's just about ready to just keep throwing in products. So that'd be great when we get a bunch of flavors. The link's down in the About tab for the website. If you do use an e-cig and you do need to buy juice or want to buy juice, check us out. So give us a shot. Right now we only have 10 milliliter bottles to offer. I'm out of stock of the empty 30 milliliter bottles, but yeah, check us out. By tomorrow, I will have several more flavors up. So again, I know there's only 2 there now. By tomorrow, there will be several more. Anyway, so that's what's been going on with me. That's why I have not been here, and I apologize. Other news. Wow, there is so much news, and I didn't even want to begin speaking again about Ebola until I could dig through all these different stories, because there has been so much going on. It's absolutely, it's crazy. It is crazy trying to dig through all the stories to find out what's true, what's false. And then there's a whole new angle of it going on now. Now there's a big group of people claiming that it's all a hoax. And it's gotten crazy. And of course, none of us, because we're just the lowly people, none of us really know exactly everything to do with it, because, we're not intended to. But I can see where a lot of people would have a lot of different views, including those people that are starting to wonder if it is indeed a hoax. But we'll get into that. As always, we always do suspicious observers at the beginning of the news. We're going to get to that right now. The link, as always, is down in the About tab for today's show. So let me get suspicious observers out of the way, and I will be back with the information I have for you on Ebola. And we're going to talk a little about the stock market and what it's been doing the last couple of days, especially yesterday. Wow. Yeah, a lot of reason for concern there. So let's do suspicious observers, and we will go from there.
Good morning, folks. We'll begin with an animation of the spiderweb galaxy. This ESO video and article linked below give insight into divergent levels of star formations within different galaxies. So we're focusing on the umbral fields looping up in the wake of the M flare from 2 nights ago. At a rough estimate, you could fit around 13 or 14 Earths inside the fields as of last night, and they've just kept growing right out of the STO frame. Looking at Soho Lasco, Mercury has entered the frame and is charging in for solar conjunction tonight. Venus is just to the right of the Sun, primed to get into the mix as well, with a great shot of our CME there. Orion gave us a gamma ray burst yesterday. It's the first one in days. The neutron monitor at Bartol is off, but we're as high as we usually get over on the muon count. Never seen it hit 102. Solar flaring having a small uptick again this morning from that side sunspot group behind the limb. Little spots have decayed, and we still cannot really see the flare maker coming in just yet. Solar wind has calmed considerably, but in the wake of the geomagnetic storm and solar sector boundary crossing, the plasma penetration kicked in as our shield tries to recover, still at minor levels. The dark patch coming in, obviously the next coronal hole. Just about Earth facing. It is the positive northern opening, and Earth has actually already slipped back into positive near Earth influence. All in all, it was a calm day on our star, but the big sunspot group is not yet in view, and that coronal hole may set up some more quakes as the planets line up as well. If you missed last night's upload reviewing the geomagnetic situation, I'd check it out. Field fading, poles shifting, and it just so happens that yet another runway has been renumbered due to the shifting planetary magnetics. Looking at earthquakes, this Japan rumble hit 6 magnitude on one reader. We took a tremor way north near the pole in the Arctic Sea, and we have a small swarm developing in Iran. Arctic ice extent in blue, still below average for the satellite age, but also still recovering well from the low point set back in 2012 in green. Meanwhile, the Antarctic has spent most of the last 2 years breaking high ice marks, but for the first time in weeks, the current extent is not as high as last year's record-setting mark, still wildly above average. Tropics Watch brings us to Hawaii, where Anna had a small southward shift to her trajectory and may just clip the islands. Preparation is highly recommended, however. The new low just west of Central America's 7 magnitude quake a few days ago is building strength and likely heading due north for landfall. Gonzalo in the Atlantic is readying to shoot north. Bermuda likely in the way, followed by far eastern Canada, and then Europe a few days later. Checking out the temperature changes in the United States, let's see what's driving these. The low of focus for days is now moving offshore, especially the heat bringing convergence. Cool air comes down the western side of the low into the eastern states, while a strong heat and moisture flow will run up the central states to meet the next low and is aided by a high-pressure cell to the south. I agree with the northeastern watch zones tonight, but I don't think this alert map accurately represents the danger in the central states off that moisture flow. The bad weather has taken its toll in Italy. We saw the floods, now the landslides. Big low in the Atlantic is driving the moisture to make the top flood watch zones tonight, where the map shows the deepest purple. Meanwhile, some heat and moisture coming just up off the Mediterranean will produce the strongest thunderstorms there tonight, same ones that hit Italy before. Low in southwest Australia, drawing a convergence from the north. That's the thunderstorm watch down under. Meanwhile, there is still moisture driven atop the southeast, and some precipitation will linger there. We've got some shots of our star to close. Eyes open. No fear. It's 6:25 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
Big thanks to Ben Davison with Suspicious Observers for today's report. Makes you wonder if it can throw a solar flare at us to kill this Ebola, huh? So let's segue into that for a minute. Well, so I've watched the CDC, the head of the CDC, start backtracking from his original statements, more or less saying, oh, everybody's safe, everything's okay, and, you can't get it unless you swim in a pool full of it, I guess. And now all of a sudden they're starting to back down. And I'm not a virologist or anything like that, but I had my concerns, especially with the numbers and knowing that the numbers are spoken to us with what's going on in Africa. And so I looked at some basic facts and looked at some simple logic. And the simple fact that they took out 6 truckloads of stuff from Duncan's apartment. 6, and when I'm talking trucks, I doubt that's what was reported. I doubt they were talking about pickup trucks. I'm pretty sure you're talking about a bigger vehicle than a pickup truck. But they said that they took out 6 loads. And they did, when they made the statement, they did include carpet in with the statement that they made. So I'm sure if they took the carpet, they took the furniture, clothes, carpet, if they took all that stuff, you can bet that they actually took the walls. They took, I'm assuming it's sheetrock. I don't know. I wasn't inside the apartment, thank goodness. Jesse Jackson was, though, and I'll leave that at that. Wishful thinking, huh? Anyway, so sheetrock, right? I'm sure they took the sheetrock out. I'm sure they took the ceiling down and all that. I'm sure they totally, like you're going to totally remodel, do a total renovation. I'm sure that's the level that they went to. And so that makes you ask, well, if this stuff is that hard to catch, I mean, this guy wasn't going around sneezing on his hands and wiping it all over the walls. And, so, I mean, if they had to go through that much effort to whatever you decontaminate this place, then it's got to be worse. It's got to be easier to catch than this Tom Friedman or whatever name of his name has been stating. It's absolutely absurd. They really have not been telling us anywhere near the truth. Absolutely not. And then since, I mean, I know it's been a few days. I was off from doing the news, and it is just absolutely crazy. And today, everything from I just see BP Earth Watch. We might actually play that. Hang on a minute here. I might actually play that for you. The video that BP Earth Watch, I just got the notification about what's going on. There's a military member, a service member that's actually, I believe it's stated that he was self-quarantined down in Texas. He was on a flight with this second lady, the second nurse that was working with Duncan, that now it's suspected of having Ebola. And that in itself is a very, very interesting topic, because depending on which site you go to now, and I'm not talking about these crazy sites that, you never know for sure or not you can trust what they're saying. I'm talking about accredited news sites. And depending upon which news site you go to, you get different stories about whether or not she was showing any symptoms on the plane that she flew. Yes, that's right, a plane that she was on. And you get conflicting reports on whether or not she was actually showing symptoms. And by symptoms, I'm talking about a fever. And we know that it's came out that now it's communicable actually before the fever sets in. So there's over 100 people that they're asking to more or less notify them, the CDC, and let them know that they were on this flight, which is interesting to me because there is a flight manifest. And today with all this, the TSA junk and all that, doesn't really do anything other than demoralize law-abiding citizens of this country. Why can't they just go to that flight manifest Why can't they just go to those records and show it? I mean, they can SWAT team some guy for not cutting his grass. So why can't they go knock on the door of a person that was on this flight? Instead, they were asking them just, hey, if you get a chance, give us a call, And it just makes no sense that they aren't really proactively hitting this hard with everything they have, because this is dangerous. Between 60 and 90% of the people infected die. Yes. And it does appear that it's a rather highly communicable disease or virus. So it goes along the same thing we've been saying the whole time. It's almost like they definitely intend this to spread. You really can't back down from that statement. With the different stuff, the different news that's coming out, I cannot back down from being able to say with total certainty that they are enabling this disease, or this virus. I keep calling it a disease, I'm sorry. They are actually enabling this virus to spread. They're allowing it. And I saw a news article, and I know I usually have a bunch of news articles, and I have the links down in the About tabs for all the news articles. Look, there's so many news articles that I've read in the past week. It's unbelievable. But I can remember quite a bit of what's in articles. If I read something, I have a near photographic memory. If I read something, it kind of sticks up there for the most part. So now, I forget what country it is, has announced a vaccine. There's a second vaccine. I know Canada was one. Israel's one, I think, and Canada's the other. Israel's got the ZMAP or whatever. I might be getting the two. Well, I know Israel's got the ZMAP. I know they claim to have one of the vaccines for it. I know Canada claimed to have another vaccine. But the article did say second vaccine. So I'm going to take it that the second one was indeed Canada. If I'm mistaken, don't kill the messenger. But anyway, we're going to see this, and we're going to see an increase. And line up. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. There's going to be mandatory, I can't even talk, mandatory vaccines. Watch that wonderful chip that they put in with the vaccine. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. I mean, come on. If you're going to let a virus come in, they took more precautions for H1N1 and for swine flu. They did. They took more precautions. It just doesn't make sense. And I realize we're not all related to the president. Thank goodness. I don't think we could bear that. But if you knew that people were sick and they had a possibility of infecting your loved ones, would you let them in the door? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not saying, hey, I'm not taking a cruel attitude. Let them fend for themselves. Don't try and help them. Don't try and do nothing. Forget them, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is stop the flights into the country. Period. Make them quarantine somewhere else, right? Make them quarantine. If they're coming from anywhere around that area, make them quarantine somewhere else for that 20. Well, I heard that it got raised up to 40-something days. I have not personally confirmed that myself, but I did hear that it actually got raised up to 40-something days. Quarantine them, however many days it is this week. Quarantine them for that length of time before you let them into this country. Don't take chances. This is an entire nation that Obama is putting at risk. An entire nation. This guy is just amazing. And I really can't blame the people of this country, because there has been a large amount of people that's been, they've been declaring they want him out, they want him impeached, they want him gone. Even Democrats, many people have voted for him, want him gone. He has consistently endangered this country in so many different ways, and this is just one of the ways. It's amazing. And nothing is being done, absolutely nothing. But what can you do? I mean, it's all, and that's why I keep trying to explain to people, it really doesn't matter what we do whatsoever. It just doesn't matter what we do at all. So I guess it's up to us, just like I've been saying all along. You have to protect yourself. You have to be worried for yourself and your loved ones. you can't rely on the government to help you, because the government don't care. They don't give a damn. They really don't care, and that should be rather obvious at this point. So let me go ahead and play BP Earthwatch's video, and we'll go from there. So this is BP Earthwatch. He just released it. I haven't heard it myself. I will be hearing it along with you. And this is where he talks about them authorizing the National Guard. So, and that I do believe that's to go to Africa. That's not for here. I've seen a report of this earlier. Anyway, let's see what he has to say about it. He usually has a pretty good mindset on things. So here's BP Earthwatch.
You guys have watched my videos for a long time, and I appreciate it. And if you're like me, you've learned to read in between the lines, and I know many of you have, when we start seeing these reports come out. And I'm going to read this report. I'm not very happy about it at all. I see what's going on. Let me just read it. It says, President Obama on Thursday authorized the Pentagon to call up Reserve and National Guard troops if they are needed to assist in the U.S. response for the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. Pentagon has authorization now. Obama signed an executive order that allows the government to call up more forces for a longer period of time currently authorized. The U.S. is committed, as we've seen this, almost 4,000 troops already that are setting up a tent. They're saying they're there to provide logistics and humanitarian assistance to confront the rapidly spreading and deadly virus. Rapidly spreading and deadly virus. Is that how they're acting here about this? Obama also notified top congressional officials of his move. Separately, Obama placed phone calls to House Speaker John Boehner, House Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi, and Senator Leader Harry Reid to discuss the administration's response to the disease. Listen, you imagine that conversation. John Boehner, Pelosi asked, "What is Ebola?" Harry Reid said, "No, you can't do that. I have to have the National Guard to run the ranchers out of Arizona." But guys, really what's going on here is that, think about this. You realize how many National Guard troops that we have, and when you talk about reserves, you got reserves in every branch of the military. Do you think all of those people will really be sent to Africa? I'm sure some will that probably do not like to go along with the status quo. Many will probably become infected, come back home. No doubt about it. He can't authorize them. He can't call them up to guard the southern border. But he can send them into harm's way in a foreign country with a disease that's very deadly if you get it. Now, I want you to read a little deeper. It's not here. But I want you to read between the lines. Now, here's the scenario. You know under martial law there will not be elections, don't you? You know that the banks are in trouble. And you know that if Ebola breaks out, becomes spread across the United States and is spreading very fast like it is in Africa, that the hospitals, many will shut down. There will be a run on the food stores. There will be a run on the banks because they're closing. This call-up is to guard against that, to control the chaos that will happen here, guys. We've been talking about it. Many people have on the internet. Now it's starting to become a little more mainstream. People are really getting angry about this. But you see these executive orders that keep getting signed, taking all of our freedom away. This is one of the final pen strokes. It's one of the final betrayals. But it's upon us. He said President Obama canceled a Thursday campaign trip to stay at the White House and focus on Ebola. It's the second day in a row he nixed a planned trip because of the outbreak. And guys, it's terrible when you see a politician have to actually stay at the office and do his job. It just makes you want to cry, doesn't it? We really appreciate you focusing on that after your golf campaign. I'm sure the Democrats can raise plenty of money. They're selling half the United States to China. He said Obama was to meet late Thursday afternoon with administration and White House officials who were working on the government response to the West Africa outbreak and on health security measures in the U.S. Health security measures in the U.S. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said Obama will also hold a conference call with healthcare workers from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. You nurses, listen to me. The masks are not working. The holes in them are too large. This is smaller. They're saying 10 times smaller when it's sneezed into the air like that. When you transmit it, I guess like an aerosol. Not work. You must demand the fully contained hazmat suits with a separate breather units. If they throw you in on the situation, do not do it with a mask. But guys, I will link to the article. You decide. But it just doesn't look good. It's a heads up. Be safe.
You heard him, and I agree totally. I think this is easier to get. I think that the whatever you want to call it, the virus itself, I think that it is smaller than these typical medical masks that you see. I don't think this is going to be a situation where you can run to Walmart and get some painter's masks or something like that and protect yourself like people did back with H1N1 and swine flu. And like, well, you see a lot of, I believe it's in Japan and China and stuff, a lot of them do it, especially when they're on public transportation and stuff like that. When they get sick, different viruses going around and stuff over there, it's common to see pictures over there of them wearing those style of masks. And I don't even know if the medical grade mask, I'm thinking you're talking probably something like a gas mask, and hopefully that would be able to catch it. I don't know. I would imagine, because the radioactive particle is pretty tiny. So I would think that a gas mask, even something like the Czech M10M, I've showed you that one before. I can show it to you again. Yeah, you're going to look funny, but you're going to be alive. And that is what counts, I do believe, in the end. Please forgive all the blinging. Let me mute that real quick. Lots going on. It's actually been a little quiet today in comparison to the last couple. Okay, this is the mask that I've showed you before, and it's $13 at Bud K. So that's affordable, and it won't fit children. I've showed you before where to go. Just go to Amazon and put in children's gas mask, and you'll find the Israeli model, which I think would be plenty good. But $13 a piece for these. That is not too bad. I did have 4 of them. Gotta love X's. What can I say? So, and then you can search, just go in and type in gas mask at budk.com, Bravo Uniform Delta Kilo.com, and they have I see they've got a larger stock of masks back in. I'm looking to see if there's anything children's size. Just I don't see a child size mask, which is sad. I wonder why they have one that's $20 here and the other one's $13. They're both Czech. They're both M10M or M10 series. This one doesn't have an M on it. I wonder why that one is. It might be a newer version. I see something else. Oh, I think it comes with extra eyepieces or something. Or whatever. I mean, anyway. So here's your filters for the M10 style mask. So if you wanted to buy replacement filters, because you got to remember, you can't just buy a gas mask and put the filters in it and leave the mask on for a year or something. It doesn't work that way. Check, because I don't know the details as far as how often you have to change the filters. So I would definitely do some research if I was you and order accordingly. But this is something that a painter's mask and the simple little medical masks just is not going to. It's just not going to suffice. It's not going to help. So I wanted to throw that back out there again. So you may say, oh, well, you're just freaking out. You're just going nuts. You're just, yeah. No, I'm not. Really, I'm not. Even a school system is concerned about this. Let's see what they have to say on the matter.
Where the decision came to close Parkside and middle school.
The decision to close that building, which is one building housing those two schools, was made out of an abundance of caution. One of our staff members traveled back to...
Okay, sorry for the little dead radio there. I had my mic muted, and I hadn't heard this, so again, I'm hearing it with you. There's those words again, abundance of caution, and I've reported on that. I've pointed that out on many news shows now. They keep saying the same phrase, abundance of caution, abundance of caution. So they're getting direct instructions, right? They're public affairs people that are talking on camera in an official status. They have been given direct orders of things to say and ways to word things. So you're hearing that's come up over and over and over again from so many different places. You'll hear the phrase abundance of caution. That's something to look out for. That is something to seriously look out for when they start doing that, when they start using these particular phrases on a nationwide basis. Everywhere they're using those words, and it's not just quotes. It's in every official comment made about the subject. You hear abundance of caution. But anyway, let's go ahead. Play on.
Cleveland from Dallas on a Frontier Airlines flight following the nurses' return travel to Dallas. So we just wanted to be very sure that we were doing everything we could to make sure that there was no risk of transmission, which the public health officials have assured us that is the case. But we wanted to take the time and the steps today to get the buildings cleaned, et cetera.
What would you say to people who would say this is out of panic and fear, that maybe this is a little too much?
I think that this is a time of anxiety because it's new for everyone. And certainly we listen to what public health officials say in terms of that very, very low risk of transmission because we had no direct contact. But just because it happened late in the day, we didn't want to rush overnight to do the cleaning and things like that. We just wanted to take a step back and take the time. And since we're dealing with students, we wanted to be sure that we were just doing that properly.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you had kept schools open, do you think parents would have been a little bit nervous to send their kids to school?
I think that, parents make individual decisions about their students sometimes. So, I mean, it's hard to say universally. Again, this is so new for everyone. So that's why making this decision just made it a little bit easier this morning to just say there would be no schools in those two buildings. And
what about the teacher? Is she going to be staying home or monitoring or anything like that? The staff member won't be in school for right now, but that's all I can say, obviously. Okay. All right. Anything else about, do you expect schools to be back in tomorrow? Is this just for cleaning, or do you think they'll be closed again for any reason?
Tomorrow is a professional day here in Solon that was already scheduled, so there's no school tomorrow for students anyway, so that will continue through the weekend.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add? Just, anything that maybe wasn't in the press release that you're getting a lot of questions on or anything like that?
No, I think, if anyone has any questions, they're certainly free, and we welcome them to, call the school district. But we really don't have additional information to share from public health officials. We stay in contact with them. And, this was just a decision that the superintendent believed was necessary to, as an extra precaution because it's so new.
Okay, wonderful. Tammy, thank you so much.
So let me get this straight. They really don't have contact with public officials, although they're using the same catchphrase that has been said time and time and time again, whether it be people in Dallas talking, people in D.C., New York, New Jersey, Kansas City, all these different places. When there's been statements made, the phrase abundance of caution has been used. Now, that's not just something that everybody says, like, don't take a wooden nickel. I know, I'm old. But anyway, it's not something that people just say, just out of the blue. There you go. I mean, out of the blue. That's something that almost everybody says several times in their life, It just doesn't come out of people's mouths naturally to say, abundance of caution. More like, hey, be careful, something like that, but not abundance of caution. So there is so many lies that is going around and misinformation. I'm telling you what, do not believe the stories in the articles that you're starting to see come out by some people in alternative media saying that this is a hoax. This is not a hoax. The only thing I can think is they are basing this off of lies that they are doing. They're either just basing this off of nothing because they're in denial. They don't want to believe something like that could happen. Or let's give them a little bit of credit. Let's say that they're actually basing this on information that they found out to be false. Okay, and there's a lot of that going around too. So I've also heard the comments about, all this fear mongering, all this, I'm telling you, you better take this serious. This thing is not just like a seasonal flu. 60 to 90% of the people that get this die. This is a lot more communicable than your average, every year seasonal flu. I mean, this is a dangerous, deadly virus. And, I can sit here and speculate all I want, whether it's government made, whether it's natural, whether it came from whatever, fruit flies in Uganda or whatever. I don't, we can all speculate. It doesn't matter. The fact is, it's here, it's spreading. They aren't telling us all the facts about where all it is, or how dangerous it is, or how to prevent ourselves from getting it, or anything else. They keep telling, don't worry. Yeah, the head of the CDC, Tom Friedman, did back up a little bit and say, that they do expect more cases. Look, folks, if those people on that plane got infected from that nurse that was on that aircraft, it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly fast. So anyway, fear mongering, huh? This comes from, this here was from, I'm trying to stick with like news sites that are accredited news sites where, I don't expect to hear the truth from them, but it's not sites like Godlike Productions. And again, I know I pick that one a lot when I talk about sites, and it's not that I'm picking on them. It's just, we all know there's websites out there that print out. In fact, I actually posted on Facebook the other day and wound up deleting it because it came out to be an untrue story. And it was from the nationalreport.com saying that they had quarantined a small town down in Texas. And it turned out that was absolutely false, or at least as far as our investigating could find, it was absolutely false. And that was indeed one of those sites that just, I don't know where they get some of their stuff or why they post it. I think it's pretty, I think it sets a pretty dangerous precedent right now to purposely report false information when it comes to something like this. This is definitely a crisis. This is something that we have to be very mindful of. It's not a happy day. Definitely not a happy day. So anyway, 9/11 emergency dispatchers instructed not to say Ebola over radio. Now this comes from MyFox DC, okay? And simply it says 9/11 emergency dispatchers in New York have been instructed not to use the word Ebola. They need a good editor. Over the radio. According to the New York Post, officials made the decision in an effort to minimize fear and panic since the radio channels are often monitored by civilians and the media. The Post reports that dispatchers have been instructed to use the code FT when discussing callers that have a fever and have a history of travel to West Africa. And it actually, that's a story that comes from the New York Post. We'll go ahead and play their little video here. Hopefully
All right, welcome back. Time now for the Pitch Files. And this morning we're talking about Ebola. And I get this, people are so jittery about this illness that in New York City, officials have directed 911 dispatchers not to use the word Ebola over the radios because they don't want to cause panic. Instead, the New York Post reports that they are supposed to use the code FT, indicating fever and recent travel to West Africa.
But my question is, how many times could they possibly be using the word
that's
Ebola?
a good question.
Ebola, right?
Well, like possible Ebola-like symptoms.
Right. So,
this is a mess.
But now that it's out, I mean, now when they hear FT, everybody's going to know about it now. So
now they got to change it.
The ridiculous of this now, though, is that, once you start saying you can't say it, and then a story comes out like this, that, there's some code FT.
Right.
Well, then everybody's going to listen for FT over the,
And that's what I'm saying. They're going to change it.
And are they hiding something?
Well, exactly. Did you hear what she said right there at the end? Are they hiding something? Well, yes, they are. This is a lot more widespread than what they're admitting. They're keeping this very suppressed. I showed you during one of the news shows how they were removing posts from the or removing whole forum topics from a Dallas forum. So it was like an official Dallas forum. They were just absolutely deleting all the Ebola threads. There is a media blackout, I assure you. Folks, if there wasn't media blackouts, how come you haven't heard nothing about Fukushima for 3 years? It didn't just get all better. Somebody didn't just put a Band-Aid over the top of Fukushima and it's all good now. It's all fresh and smells like a spring flower. I don't know. No, it's not. Nothing has changed. That thing is still spitting out radioactive air, radioactive water. I mean, everything. It's just more and more radiation. Those cores don't just, they don't just burn up in a couple of days and it's all good. It don't work that way. They don't even know where the cores are. They have no clue, no idea, because they literally burn down through the earth. They have no idea. So, but you haven't heard a word about it. That's the whole point. You haven't heard a word about the latest on Fukushima because there's a media blackout. That's a fact. Just like with Ebola, there is a media blackout. Yes, they are talking some about it, but they're not telling you nearly everything. There's a lot of just false reporting in a quote official manner. I mean, wow. But yeah, it's gotten, apparently the situation in New York has gotten bad enough. And look, I'm not saying that there's hundreds or thousands right now that's infected in New York. I'm not trying to make kind of claims like that or anything like that. But I do believe not everybody and their brother that runs a fever and has been to West Africa or been around somebody that's been to West Africa are calling up and saying, to 911 dispatchers, hey, look, I'm concerned I have Ebola. I mean, what gets me is a majority of these people probably would be driving themselves to the hospital or taking a cab. Or what's interesting to me is this is the police, it just doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of stuff that just does not add up here. It's so hard to get any kind of answers, and we've been trying. So, there's just so much I could be covering tonight when it comes to Ebola alone. We've got 10 minutes left. I said I'd talk about the stock market, so I guess I'll go into that for a little bit. I don't know a lot about stocks and investments and all that stuff, so forgive me. But I do know yesterday the stock market just took a crazy fall. And from what I understand, it pretty well recovered. and then I think it just went down a little bit more today. I don't know what the closing numbers were or anything like that. As of about 2:30, I know I'd asked about it somebody that's part of the Saving the Truth movement group, and I asked them, and they, what the information they had given, it didn't quite look like it was an event like yesterday. So BP Earthwatch did talk about that, but the stocks all over the world are dropping like a rock. And ours did yesterday, and it bounced back. I would just say keep a very close eye on things. I mean, it dropped, I almost want to say like 800 points or something yesterday. It was an absurd amount that the Dow had dropped. So keep an eye on those kind of things. It's crazy ridiculous what's going on, and I didn't really see that much being covered in any news. They kept pretty quiet about that. Let me play BP Earthwatch's video for you that he did talk about the stocks, because even he is a little more educated on the matter than what I am. I just really don't. I would never play the market if I had the money to play the market. So anyway, this is a video he did. This was 10 hours ago. World
October
stocks continue to fall.
2014. Quick update on the stock markets, guys. It's very important that we watch this. And again, I'm going to emphasize one thing. Even though you may not have much money and have zero stocks, this will lead to a bank collapse. When that happens, everything collapses. Study the history of the 1929 stock market and the Great Depression. It will definitely affect the banks. They will shut down when that happens. It will be a run on food. It will be a mess. The bankers will protect themselves. They will shut the doors and keep the money they got. They will not let you make a run on it. You understand what I'm saying? But the markets opened at 160. They're minus 140.12. They were at minus 160 at the opening. The futures had gotten down to 177 at one time. S&P's down 1789. That's your banking. That NASDAQ is 4856. But all around the world for the last 3 weeks, this has been going on. 1 to 2 points a day getting shaved off this. But oil, this is important, is at $80.63 a barrel. Now listen, the fracking, the reports say that it cost them $80 a barrel to frack. Now, in a way, that would be a blessing to stop the fracking, because they've destroyed California and a few other states' water supply for the next 10,000 years, draining out what little fresh water they have and pumping it back in with chemicals and poisons. Totally intentional, totally population control, and Satan does that by tempting man with money. I read one of the fracking reports where the guy said he makes more money after he destroys the land. He's the number one owner of the fracking companies in the U.S. Says he makes more money by flipping the land. That if he had to depend strictly on the revenue from fracking, he would be broke. But the Bible says in Revelation that God will destroy those that destroy this earth. Something to keep in mind. Now, on the negative side of oil at $80 a barrel, maybe shutting down the fracking side, is that it will cause it to skyrocket, because Saudi Arabia and some of the OPEC companies could take advantage of the situation. You understand what I'm saying? It won't be a balanced deal at all. Now, Brent is down to 83.28. Natural gas is up because it's wintertime, 3.807. But around the world, Europe is down. DAX, FTSE, the CAC down, all three from 1.5% to nearly 2%. Asia, the Nikkei got hit 335, 2.2%. And it's like that all across. Gold at $1,237 an ounce, down $720 at the opening this morning. I warned about this when it went from $1,900 to $1,600 an ounce, and you still see these fools come on telling you to buy gold. You know, it's like jumping onto a sinking ship or catching a knife in free fall. Don't listen to these fools. They're trying to sell it out from under them. In other words, they're trying to pawn it off on you. because it will go down to zero. When it comes down to, well, you want this loaf of bread or you want this ounce of gold, what are you going to do? The Bible tells us they will cast the gold and silver into the street and curse it when at the end times, because it is worthless, and you've been fooled and hoodwinked into listening to some of these radio shows and internet shows that come on with commercials to buy gold or have a guest that says buy gold. Do not listen to that. Why would you want to buy gold anyway? As an investment when it's already dropped 600 points? I mean, $600 an ounce, and they're telling you to buy in while it's low? And I've got a message for you guys that are promoting this. You know who you are. And most of you that promote it claim to be Christians. If you're a Christian, you know the Bible says that gold and silver will be useless and cast into the street, but you're still promoting it. Or which one are you? Do you believe the Bible, or you're just taking the money, Satan's gold money? Is that what's going on? Which side of the fence? But guys, this will affect the poor man much worse than it will the rich man. I'm sure there'll be some bankers jumping out of windows and things like that on the lower levels. You know, people going broke, middle America, mid to upper. But the people that run these banks, we saw it in Europe last year, they close them. They will close the banks for 30 days. And listen, what they did in France was they closed it where you couldn't use your ATM for 30 days, or you couldn't use your card, couldn't withdraw money. But at the same time, the people's jobs where they worked were still doing direct deposit into the bank. In other words, their money was coming there, but the bank wouldn't release it until they got their money propped back up. The bankers, they will survive in their bunker temporarily. But guys, it's a heads up on the markets as I'm closing this out. With Dow still down below 100 right at the opening. It's something to watch. We've been watching it for 3 weeks. Again, we've got the Ebola situation coming at us on the right side, but don't forget to look left, guys, because both can hit us at the same time. And if you see an economic collapse, imagine how worse, if it can get any worse, that the CDC's response will be in the hospitals, because everything runs on money in this country now. It's a heads up. We'll be watching it. There's a couple of the Ebola updates that I'm checking out to see if they trace back to a reliable source. It's a heads up. Be safe.
Jesse does such a good job, and amen on what he has to say. I mean, he couldn't put it any more perfect. Look, I've been saying it all along. If you've got the extra money to buy gold and silver, that's wonderful. That's great, because I do think that it will be a good investment at some point. But if you have to make a choice between feeding yourself and your loved ones or buying gold and silver, make sure you stock up some food and a way to filter water. And if you noticed, I always keep saying a way to filter water. Sure, stock up some water, but focus on a way to filter it, because you're never going to be able to stock up enough water to be able to last you any length of time. I don't care if you got a big old bunker underground and you've got 1,000 gallons of fresh potable water right there. It doesn't matter. It's not going to last that long. It's not if you need to stay under for any extended length of time. So, and of course, fresh water, that is so important. I've talked about it before that in a war situation, more people die of disease than what they do actually bullets, and that's just a fact. And the two places they mainly get disease is I'll give you three: lack of hygiene, lack of sanitation, and lack of clean drinking water. So if you can, take care of those three things, you better your chances of not dying from disease dramatically. And what more can you say? Put your money in the smart places. And if you don't have any money at all, then I urge you to start digging, start looking. I don't mean digging in the ground, but you might want to do that too. But you want to start looking at ways to do things yourself. There are plenty of things you can do yourself. You just have to put the research into it and then the time and effort to do it. I've gone over on this show several times of how to make a water filter from just stuff that you can find just about anywhere. You know, a little bit of rock, a little bit of sand, a little bit of charcoal, a piece of material, an empty 2-liter Coke bottle or whatever. There you go. You know, you got what you need to make a good filter. To filter water, you still want to boil that water as well, but it will filter it, and it will do an amazing job of filtering it. So, yeah, just search on YouTube. You can learn how to do just about anything on YouTube. And you can learn anything else pretty much on Google. It's amazing the information that's out there. You just have to actively look for it and study it and learn about it. Don't just read it from one source. Read it from many different sources. That way, some might have modifications that work better. Some might have updates to something that may be very important. So that's what I have for you tonight. I will be back tomorrow night. I apologize for not being here for 3 nights. And I'll let everybody smack me. I won't do it again. But anyway, I will be back tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll be able to have a little more organized show like I normally do, with all the links down in the About tab and all that good stuff. Check out our site, our juice site. The link's down in the About tab. And again, remember, by tomorrow I'll have quite a few more flavors up there. I've been doing a lot of work on that. Anyway, that's what I got for you tonight. God bless you. May He walk with you, be one with your spirit. I love you as always, and I will talk to you tomorrow night. You have a good evening, folks.